Welcome back to the show, and now we're getting into our Killers of the Flower Moon review. And to start with the overview, this is an epic revisionist Western crime drama film directed by Martin Scorsese and co-wrote the screenplay with Eric Roth. The plot centers on a series of Oklahoma murders in the Osage Nation during the 1920s, committed after oil was discovered on tribal land. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone. Had a budget of $200 million and brought in 46.3 million into the box office. Also had a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And this film has obviously had so much attention this past week. Obviously, the true story that Martin Scorsese was telling, and the fact that it was a story that needed to be told. There was a plethora of great performances. Also, what were your initial thoughts on this film, and just kind of like what you really felt in that first viewing of it?
Man, there's a whole lot. Like this is like if people don't know, like in like the native community, this is almost like how like when Black Panther came out for Black people like in 2018 or whatever. Like that's how big. I mean, we don't ever see movies like this with people in it. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We don't ever see like legit representation. We usually are some weird version of it. So a lot of people were really excited, but also apprehensive. Like for me personally, like I knew the background of what was going on already. I know the story, I know the legal parts. I mean, my degree right now is currently, I'm in like law school for Indigenous legal studies. And so, like, even understanding the legal aspects of this and then how this goes into so many current day things, even. So there was a whole mixed kind of thing because there was some apprehension. There
yeah,
was, should someone that's not native be telling a story like this? How excited can you be when you know what the content's going to be like?
true.
Like
Yeah,
it's like if for a lot of people how they see potentially a slavery movie, or for maybe the Jewish community seeing a movie about the Holocaust. Like you
yeah,
want history to be told, you want stories to be told, but also sometimes you're wary about, is it only a particular kind of story every time, That all being said, for me personally, obviously, like Martin Scorsese is my favorite movie director of all time. Like,
yes.
I mean, that's not a stretch for most people to say, but for me, it's been since I was little, even. Robert De Niro is my favorite actor of all time.
Oh, it's like a
Um,
match made in heaven. It's like a match made in heaven
yeah,
for you.
yeah, like I think of them too, like Kobe and Shaq and Phil,
Yes.
and so like me and your brother even one time were arguing with Robert De Niro and Denzel. And, my only point was that Robert De Niro is in better movies overall than
Oh
Denzel
yeah.
is, whereas Denzel carries movies that
Some
without
bad
him,
films. Yeah, some bad films.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But now there's a couple that are both together. But anyways, yeah. So like I was really excited about watching it. A lot of since the Native community is so small, right? Like it's such a small community overall numbers wise. There's so many of us that were like, oh, that's so and so. We know them. Or oh, that's so and so's clothing. Or oh, that's so and so's beading work. Yeah, we follow them. We interact. We talk about stuff. That's her beading work in there. Or oh, that's what's her name on this other show that my friend and then my cousin and so and so did. Like it was crazy how everyone knew people who were involved. So
Yeah.
there was kind of there was an excitement. We know from what Martin Scorsese's talked about, he had one direction with the movie in which originally Leonardo DiCaprio was going to be the FBI officer who
Yes,
came
I heard
in.
about that.
So yeah, so the aim of the movie was going to be mostly centered on like the Osage people were going to be kind of almost background to like the real story being about the FBI being created, which is kind of how the book angles it a little bit too.
Yeah.
And so it was really encouraging to hear him say, like, as he was looking at it, he realized he was doing that
Mhm.
and then started consulting with actual people in the tribe, chiefs, former chiefs, president, like, and people there who, like, he literally changed things. It wasn't like I said I was there and they told me da, da, da. No, there are people who told him stuff and he changed it because it would have been maybe disrespectful or dishonorable, those kind of things. So that's what kind of caused me to be also excited for it too, to hear somebody who's willing to do that. And most importantly for me, all the people from that community were really excited about it. Because I will say, there's a mixed reaction from a lot of different native peoples.
Yeah.
Um, there's a
I even saw one of the I forget her name, but one of the reservation
Devery
dog.
Jacobs.
Yes, yes, she was heated about it. Very heated.
Yes, and that got into a pretty interesting discussion. There's a lot of people who were then upset because they were like, "Hey, you have a platform. and you're discouraging something that a lot of people put a lot of hard work into.
Yeah.
But obviously, especially any Native woman having those kind of emotions and coming out saying that, I'm not going to invalidate that at all because there's so much history of that, and then it is pretty raw. Like it is pretty hard to watch at times.
Yeah.
Like to do. I don't think that it went too. It was not celebratory in the killing. There was no, even in other Martin Scorsese movies, there's usually like a picture of the good life under that condition.
He's glorifying the gangster life
Yes,
usually. Yeah.
yes, yes. He glorifies, but then he also shows you the
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah.
Um, but he didn't even do that in this. The good life never really looked that good. He actually was showing these people really aren't that brilliant, smart, and conniving.
Yeah.
They were kind of stupid a lot, and they weren't these brilliant. Ooh, I'm a master conniver, because they didn't have to be, because it wasn't just them. The whole community was complicit.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's kind of going super into it. I just kind of wanted to say a lot of that because it's a very like conversation that's been going on that way, and I'm totally fine. Obviously, if there's other Native women or men who have those kind of views, like where they're like, hey, we want to tell these particular stories, or hey, we don't only want to tell these. But I also, for me, I thought it was a great movie.
Hmm.
Just as how they did it. Of course, there's certain critiques I may have, but overall, I thought it was really good. I thought they did a really clear job of showing who's doing the wrong, and telling
Yes.
the stories of people and having some beautiful moments within it.
Yeah.
I think there could have been a little bit more with some of that, but I think overall I was, um, and I thought I did pretty good at not getting too emotional until
Hmm.
the very end,
Oh
and
my
seeing
goodness.
how they ended it, and I was like, oh, he's doing this because he's really trying to, like, as much as he can, honor this person who's a real human, and he's like, remember this person's name, and this is who we're talking about, not just a movie. And he's
I
just
love
like
that
looking
ending.
straight and telling that. I
That
was
was a
like,
beautiful ending. That was a beautiful
bro, when
ending.
it hit that, I was like, oh no, that caught me off guard. I was like, I didn't even tear up on these other parts, but the way it just like kind of all hit, and I was like, whew. Even my wife had to be like, hey, are you okay? I was like, I'm
Man.
gonna be, you know.
And that's the thing, because like I feel as though this was one of, like, and this is a spoiler filled episode, but like I feel as though that ending, the way he tied that in, was such a different Martin Scorsese ending. I was like, oh, he's not going for the traditional type of trope that he usually does. Like looking back at that, do you feel as though he knew that he kind of had to put in a different part at the end to really like put this story together?
I think so. I could see him having another way to end it, but then perhaps through discussions with people, that influencing what he wanted to emphasize
Yeah.
and how he wanted to remind people of this particular human being that went through so much, and to talk about it. And from it, I think I read that the FBI did do an actual like radio play like that. They were kind of trying to tout the FBI, like, hey, look at what we did. We uncovered some stuff. So I think that was like a real production thing. But the way he like was explaining it about her, it was like almost stepping outside of it to a degree and being like, hey, this is what it was about. It's not even about these other people who did the thing, but like,
Yeah.
let's remember this person who was, and how they were a real live human being that these events happened to and stuff. So, yeah.
Heavy. Yeah. Really heavy. And I'll get into our first topic. From 1 to 4 stars, what would you give it? I would give this film four. It's technically, yeah, for sure. Four is up. Four is up all the way. It's technically and
Oh,
visually beautiful. Scorsese just manages to place urgency into even the small moments. And another thing that gets me is like when people, I left the theater and some people were saying, "Oh man, that was so long." I was like, I felt as though every minute was worth it. I really felt as though every minute was worth it. I like, for most filmmakers, they can't pull that off. I feel as though he beautifully ties in that length, that duration of a film, and you know what you're going to get. I feel like you're going to get you know, everything worth it from top to bottom. So, 4 stars for you. What would be some of your critiques for it?
um, only critiques. I think even knowing what his aim was in the movie, and even knowing what his audience was for the movie,
Yeah.
I still feel like there could have been more of, um, And I know it made sense within the story and with what really happened, but I really wish there wasn't such a long time that Molly was just kind of like in the bed and just kind of not really able
Yeah,
to do much.
yeah.
Like, because I feel like she's one of the few people who's been with like Leo in a scene, and it's like she's like in control. It's like she's in
Literally in control, bro. She
charge.
was in control of multiple scenes. That was
Yeah,
insane. I'd never seen that. I've never seen that
yeah,
with
and
Lana.
she's saying very few words, but she's the one in charge of that. And it was cool because I feel like even hearing how he's talked about her job acting and how it was, I feel like that was like a real like you're willing to take a back seat
Yeah,
in a movie that you know is like massive, and you're willing to play a role that is like you're not just like this criminal, like he's stupid, like he's a foolish person,
yeah,
and she's smarter, she's alert, she's aware of things.
yeah.
So I think some of that, and then maybe some of the, um, I wouldn't say this is a critique. I understand some people have said, well, hey, why are you trying to make it seem or empathize with Leonardo DiCaprio's character? Me and my wife even had this discussion, and she was like, I don't know, I don't think it should, there's no empathy. And I heard another guy who was an Osage person who worked on the movie, and he also had the critique where he was like, that's not love. He goes, you conspire to kill someone's family, that's not love. And what I think, I don't necessarily think that was the aim. I think the aim was to allow someone to place themselves into that character so that the movie hits them particularly. Um, and what I mean is like I've always remember this essay I read out of all people on Hank Hill from King of the
Mm.
Hill.
Hmm.
Because if you watch a lot of movies, there's a lot of foolish men or racist characters that a racist or foolish person will be like, well, that's not me.
Yeah,
They're not likable. They're not whatever. Versus they talked about the genius of like King of the Hill a lot. Is that Hank Hill is kind of like a likable guy who just kind of doesn't. He's kind of ignorant at times and then learns a little bit. So then it allows someone in a story to place themselves in that position
yeah,
and then to also learn along with him because they see the parts of themselves in that character. And so I think that's what Martin Scorsese was doing a little bit. I don't know if he was fully trying to just give empathy to him. I think he was trying to allow people to see, hey, even those of you who say you love these people,
yeah,
or those of you who say you are for them, or those of you who say you have good feelings and not direct animosity, you're still contributing to hurting them because it
yeah.
benefits you. Because, in his words, I really love that money, you know?
Exactly. Um, and I'll get into our next topic with favorite character. I would go with Molly because this was a true leading performance to me. She's the heart and soul of the film. It's subtle and moving all at once. And I know this film had Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. I think you can make a case that she had the best performance in it at some parts. I really feel as though, like you said, she wasn't utilized as much, but I think the moment she was in it, she really outshined almost everybody. To you, overall, who's your favorite character?
Yeah, I got Molly. Molly, I think Lily Gladstone, I think she killed it. She was awesome. I remember, yeah, I think she did great. I think Leo did do great.
Yeah, he did for
Um,
sure, and De Niro.
I think he did awesome. Yeah, De Niro, and I do want to give one particular shout out. There's who I think did like she dominated her like 20 minutes. Her
Anna,
name is
Anna,
yes, Anna. Yeah, and so I forgot her name. I wrote it down because I wanted to say it, but I forgot just now. I
Dion
believe it's
Waiters.
Cara